Hey everybody, John Wilker here with the Simplest Biz. I got a special guest today, my brother Rick, and I'll fill you in why he's on here with me today. But the thing I want to cover is we get a lot of questions a lot of times about the pallet industry and what status it is presently. Now, listen, I've been selling the course for a little while as well, so we get the question as well: does the pallet recycling business still apply today, as maybe even when you started it, John, back in '98 and all these years? So we wanted to cover that topic and give you some insight, because a lot of people aren't aware of what's going on in the shipping industry and the trucking industry and the warehouse industry. And my brother Rick has been participating in this in the electrical lighting field for the last 40 years, would you say, around there, Rick? 35, 40 years?
40, yeah, more
40.
than that, actually.
Exactly. So he's seen a lot of what's taking place, even in the last 2 or 3 years. I want to expose you folks to what's going on in the industry itself. Now, a little history before we get started. My brother is my older brother. I'm the last of 10. I have 6 sisters, and Rick was squeezed between 6 sisters. There's 3 girls, Rick, and then 3 more girls. So if he sounds a little effeminate, just ignore it, and we'll just go on, and it'll be fine.
Well, as Jerry Seinfeld said, there's nothing really wrong with that. But if I'm effeminate, you're in trouble.
Oh, that's you got a point. I
Well,
knew
we both have our Auburn hats on today. Mine's a little bit more professional looking, but we won't get into that. Getting back to the subject at hand.
Absolutely.
Seriously, we've had some conversations over the last several months, and I brought this up to John because I kind of split my time between the electrical lighting agency business that I'm still involved in, but I do this on a regular basis. And one of the comments that does come up a lot is some of the videos that we use to kind of help individuals see this business clearer. Some of them are a little bit older, and we get the comment that people think that this could be a saturated business.
Right.
And I have had the comments to John, and I did a little bit of research. And of course, my gut tells me a lot of things about the industry because I live in the Florida area, kind of the panhandle up near Jacksonville, or have for the last 17 years.
Yes.
And what I've noticed, not only along with the fact that I've been here, I've traveled a good bit in the Southeast. And what we've come to notice is there's been an explosion of warehouses being built in the last 3 to 5 years. And a lot of that, in my opinion, but I've corroborated that with the fact that our good friends at Amazon have created kind of an understanding that they can have material to you in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's permeated a lot of other industries, believe it or not. And I can attest to that because a lot of the agents that I deal with in the lighting industry have been told that instead of working with the warehouses in California and in New York, we're going to have them in our territory, and we're going to be responsible for keeping the 20% of the items that account for 80% of the business. And it's being mandated. And I don't know if every individual that watches this, you just need to take note what's going on in your own area, because I talk to a lot of people every week, and everybody tells me kind of the same thing about warehousing space that's being built. And we've checked it out. It's grown at about a 3% clip year over year for the last several years. And when you talk about a 3% increase over what's already existing, that's a huge amount of growth in warehousing.
Right.
And when you see that, it's going to just mean a lot more product out there as it relates to what we do. Pallets.
Well, one thing I will mention is I actually put an article about this on the Simplest Biz Facebook page, not the actual training page, but I have a page out there and on John Charles' Facebook page, and I'll put that link in here. And basically it's saying in the 90s, we had about 2,000 warehouses, and now it's up to around 7,000. And I think this was last year's data, so it's even growing even more. So what Rick's really trying to say here is, when Amazon built a better mousetrap, so to speak, for goods to get delivered to individuals and sometimes even businesses, they spoiled us and gave us a expectation of fast delivery. So, and that's why Amazon's been so successful. Well, copycats, and not only that, the necessity to satiate that want for fast delivery has permeated every other market on the planet, whether it be lighting or electrical or building materials, raw materials, you name it. The expectation is fast delivery. So why does warehouses correlate to pallets? Well, listen, everything in a warehouse is either stored and moved around via pallets, right? So the more warehouses there are, the more pallets that are in need to move all these goods at the speed that they need to be needed. Is that correct, Rick?
Absolutely. I mean, it really has exploded on just about every industry that I know of. And just because we talk about pallets doesn't mean all this other stuff isn't affected too. The other 8 or 9 other products we talk about, they just follow hand in hand with the pallets, because a good many of them either sit on a pallet or are being used in conjunction with a pallet.
Well, let's give an example of like one of the electrical places that you're working with, or you've even heard about. Are they like located in Jacksonville, and then they're having to build other warehouses throughout the Southeast or another location, as an example, in a centralized location to accommodate?
Yeah, I mean, for one of our major lines, and I won't get into the name of it, but it's a major line for us. It's our biggest line. And for the last 20 years that they've been in existence, they've worked out of New York and California. And they, in the last 3 years, have just kind of done enough marketing research on their own to make the decision, just like what we're talking about. They realized the only way to gain market share is to do a better job of delivering the goods on a more timely basis. That's one of the key points. And we now have, or will have, by the end of 2023, 9 regional warehouses for that product line alone.
Wow.
I've got another 20 product lines that I cover, and they're all kind of following suit. Maybe not to the point that they're going to have that many more warehouses themselves, but that's a lot of a commitment, and it's falling on the agents to make that happen. Again, this particular line has 24,000 SKUs.
Right.
They're being required to cover the 20% that account for 80% of their business. So it just kind of falls in line with what we're talking about.
Is it 20% going into these other warehouses?
Yeah, that's what they're required to keep.
Right. Got you. And see, there it is. In a nutshell, they are having to copy what Amazon's done, because Amazon, the leader, well, I'm not saying you have to have an account with Amazon to make this business work or anything. All these other smaller players is where the action is as well. And they're all following suit, which is in direct correlation with pallets. Well, think how many more additional corrugated boxes are going to be needed to move these types of things, right? For wire companies, there's wire spools and dunnage to carry those wire spools or to prop them up on, Gaylord boxes, industrial bags, crates. So these other items as well are going to be in need throughout all the stuff that's being built. What are some other, is there any other thing? I mean, that's really what we're trying to get at when people say, well, this industry's probably saturated. Between the internet and Amazon, the way they've structured and the way the whole world is moving in mass and at the speed of lightning as far as raw goods and business to business, and the internet and e-commerce have exploded the amount of shipping that's going on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's got to hit the nutshell. I mean, it really has just really grown the market to the point where anybody just in my industry alone, we're talking about one industry, even though it's a significant one. There's hundreds of industries out there that
thousands,
are
right? Thousands that'll be following suit as well. And then you throw AI on top of it and the capabilities of the speed of which that's going to be able to assist companies in ordering and on-demand ordering and all this. All this stuff has to be moved from point A to point B. And fortunately, like, Rick, you've been exposed to me doing this and helping me out on some of these calls. The pallet touches everything on the planet, just about, that's being moved. So
when we use the expression that we're at 3 billion pallets and it's going to be at 6 billion by the year 2026, that might be an understatement.
That's true. Yeah, especially with what's going on with AI. I mean, everybody's going to have their own personal assistant with AI, and it's going to be ordering stuff, and you won't even know it's ordering. All that craziness is going to be taking place, and it sounds nuts, but that and stuff we can't even imagine is happening on a weekly basis. Because I'm starting to keep up with it, and it's crazy what's going on with ChatGPT and all that when that comes into play in the marketplace and having the movement of goods tied into it.
The reality is we're trying to address it with what we're doing and teaching people how to do this business. And we have gone through quite a growth spurt ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But if anything, this is going to be even bigger than what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and who would think, as far as pallets and stuff like that, who would ever think that, most people don't even pay attention to it, right? But the more you understand this business, and this is why I do these videos and bring Rick on here today, is to give you folks a mindset of understanding how integral some things that people don't even pay attention to are to society. And if they didn't exist, our whole society would be in a different shape. People would, not to be blunt, but people could die if it wasn't for the pallet. Hospital goods are sent on pallets, supplies and medicines, just like everything, and food. You start thinking of it in that manner, and you start to realize, wow, how could something so simple be so integral as a part of society? The way I always looked at it myself.
It's pretty interesting. I know home goods goes away. My girlfriend's
That's true. Melissa needs a whole pallet company herself for the stuff she's ordering lately. Are there any other questions that we should cover that, because Rick helps me out on calls. I can't do them all. And he's watched my business ever since last 25 years, basically, and has an inside knowledge about it. And that's why I have him take some of the calls that come in. Are there any other questions that you can think of that we could cover for folks? It might even be on this topic, but on anything.
From my perspective, I just think that people just need to keep an open mind and get the idea of any kind of slowdown because of it's been around for a few years that we've been doing this. Mm-hmm. It's actually just the opposite.
Yeah, even during COVID, it exploded, because the movement, that's when things started going crazy. There was a little curve, a little slant of growth in internet ordering and all that for like 10 years. Then COVID hits and everybody's from home, and all those naysayers started jumping in and businesses as well. And that internet ordering just went like an airplane taking off, a Concorde taking off. So the amount of people that are participating with this little phone right here and their computers and the ordering of goods and services and raw materials, all that's being moved on these pallets. So that's what's taking place. And it's, some people don't know this, but I have several students in Birmingham where my business is. I can't do it all, folks. Nobody can, nor do you need to. I think there's a misconception that you have to dominate your city or something to make money with this, and that's not.
4 or 5 accounts, and you got a pretty good living.
You got a really good living, and if that's just pallets, and we're trying to teach you,
and you can be done in half the time a normal job would take. So,
right, and then we can layer all the other stuff on top of just to the same customers that are buying pallets. They get, they need crates, they need dunnage, they need sometimes 55-gallon drums and, of course, corrugated boxes to put on top of the pallets. So we source that stuff out as well and show that and lay that blueprint for you folks in the training for you to go step by step. It's kind of like a college course. You want step by step by step by step in linear fashion to get where you need to be, so you don't have to work all day, or kill yourself. You're going to have to hustle. I'm not saying it's going to fall in your lap, but this is a way of making a living where you still can spend some time with your kids and take some time off, or go to lunch with your wife at noon on a Tuesday, play golf by 10 on a Wednesday, that kind of thing, where your life is not chained to the cubicle.
Well, not to get too convoluted here, because we were trying to talk about one particular, but with these kind of opportunities with more warehousing space, keeping your ear to the ground is a key factor here, because crazy things that we've heard from other people that have been in this business, where they ask you, oh, by the way, since you're telling me you have a way to help us get rid of material, things like forklifts and trucks and all kind of things come into play, that you have an avenue to help them get rid of that stuff. And we've had some pretty amazing stories told to us about people taking advantage of that and picking up some pretty nice income off of the peripheral stuff that has nothing to do with these 8 or 9 items we typically talk about.
Yeah, there's so much stuff going on in these warehouses. I'd share stories inside the training. One of them that our students will share, and Rick, I know you know about this one, was it was a warehouse one of my students came across, and it had what 3,000 vanities, I think it was, something like that. Bathroom vanities. And the place had been sold, the new tenants wanting in, and he said, you can have them all, just take them, get them out of here. And he set this whole network up and was selling all these, and it was all about pallets to begin with, but it turned into something like this as well. So the opportunities that come into play with these warehouses are nuts. And it's a matter of knowing your stuff and knowing how to communicate, and good things happen to good people as well. So it's a matter of being educated and doing this in a serious way, and seeing these opportunities come in front of you and taking advantage of them, even if it's outside the realm of what we're even teaching. It's all
just making sure people pay attention to the language of this business, how to deliver the message, which John takes I think an exceptional amount of time, especially near the end of the course, about how to talk to people about these kinds of things to make sure they understand. You have an avenue to help them out on things that are totally unrelated to the 8 or 9 items we typically talk about. And that's the delivery of the message, the verbiage that we want you to deliver the message is key as part of this course. And it really kind of comes as a culmination of what you've learned prior to that as you get closer to the end of the course.
And it's so important, because if more you recognize what's going on in this industry, there's a lot of pretenders out there, a lot of rookies. There's a lot of scavengers out there that don't know what they're doing. Having that leg up and that knowledge of how to help these businesses in the right way, in a numerous different ways, and structuring deals that helps them the best, but also makes you a win and the supplier a win simultaneously, and keeps it going for longevity, is the key of doing this type of business, instead of just being the guy, hey, I got pallets, you need pallets, from the guy who hadn't bathed in 3 days and is stuck in the 48-40 game. So I hope y'all start to pay attention from the first part of this conversation. Look around when you're driving down the highway. Just notice how many trucks are moving goods down the highway. Notice how many flatbeds are propping stuff up on dunnage. Notice how many crates are on flatbeds. Notice how many warehouses off the side of the highway is being constructed, and all the activity. Stuff you never really paid attention to before. It's exploding right in front of your eyes. And if you start paying attention to this, you're going to start seeing pallets and all these other things right in front of you. And you're like, why didn't I notice that before? It's piles and piles of opportunity staring you in the face. This is the way you have to look at it, if you learn. So that's what we're here to do. And if y'all have any other questions, go to thesimplestbiz.com. Rick, do you have any final thoughts on this? I appreciate you spending some time.
No, I think just keeping your eyes and ears open and being aware, and just making sure that you don't try to speed through this course, that you do practice maybe a little bit as you get ready to. It's not important to get done in 4 or 5 or 6 days. It's not. Not when you're really looking at this as maybe a transition to what you might be doing full time. But, that's typical amount of time that it takes. But I think getting it and knowing it, so your first call is very similar to your 10th call, but you want to start out as fast as possible, because most people, that invest that amount of money, they want to get as much instant gratification as they can.
Sure.
The better off you start off, the better you'll feel about it as you get. And after you get a couple of these wins, you're going to be motivated even more. But just keep your eyes and ears open about it, and notice as John's saying about all these different things, because those might be the hotbeds of opportunity that people haven't touched.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And I see students all the time. They're out there, and the deals that are happening are crazy. Great point that Rick's making. Don't rush through this. Learn it well, and let's get out there and make it happen if you believe this is an opportunity that you want to participate in. Well, I appreciate it, Rick. I think that gives them some clarity, and hopefully if you have any questions, ask them in the comment section, and we'll go from there. TheSimplestBiz.com, opt in for information. And then lastly, we have a book an appointment and get your questions answered if you have any lingering questions, and we'll go from there. Okay. All right, man. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it.